Welcome, everybody, to the Social Dig, the greatest underrated show on the World Wide Web. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And as always, we're going to be digging into the topics that keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So come on in, kick your feet up, get an ice cold beverage, warm beverage, just kick back, get ready to join the conversation. We are back here at the Social Dig late night call-in show where anything goes, right? We're going to go ahead and talk about various topics. It's really up to you, especially after coming off of After Hours, Spaced Out Radio. I've done a lot of talking, so I would love to hear from you guys, right? The link is in the chat, the StreamYard link. You can join the stage at any time and kind of maybe kick off the conversation or join the conversation, however you want to look at it. Either way is good for me. Let me go ahead and bring up some of the information here that we have, right? As always, you can call us at 856-843-3444, or that's 856 the dig. Or to make it easier, go ahead, click the StreamYard link, join the stage. You don't have to show your face. You can come on and just let us hear your voice, but we would love to hear your opinion on various topics, right? So we're going to go ahead and jump in the chat and see exactly who has come on over from the After Hours, who joined us here tonight at the Social Dig. And I really appreciate everyone that I'm going to name here. So let's go ahead and take a look and see exactly who has shown up here at the Social Dig. We got Christine. Thank you for coming on over to the Social Dig. Thanks for joining us. Jessica S. saying, woohoo, Mr. Rob G. Hey, Jessica S. Thank you so much for coming in. We do appreciate you showing up here at the Social Dig. Philip Blair saying, oh, no, missed it. No, thank you for coming in. You're right on time, Philip Blair. Thanks for showing up here tonight. We had an awesome show at the After Hours. You can definitely go back and check that out. Paramar, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. And yes, I did go ahead and update the date for you. Appreciate it, Christine. Thanks for letting me know. To Mothman, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. Flat 6, thanks for coming in, saying I was the first thumbs up. Please, everyone, please get those thumbs up for the show. That helps the algorithm, helps get our conversations out there, right? Because I think these are important conversations that we have. Let's see, Little Cam 51. Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for coming over. We got Puck Elf. Puck Elf, maybe in the back as well. Thanks for coming on in, Puck Elf. We appreciate you showing up tonight. We got T-Bone. Thanks for coming on over, T-Bone. Let's see. Yeah, Christine. Christine in the building. Thanks for coming on over to the Social Dig late night calling shows. Same with Christine Lynn. So Christine and Christine, thank you both for coming on over. We appreciate you. Love V Love, better known as Van Gold in the SOR chat. Thanks for coming on over. We appreciate you showing up. Moving down the list. I said Flat 6. Maybe, yeah, I did, but I'm going to say it again because Flat 6 is here in the building, and we appreciate Flat 6 for showing up over here at the Social Dig, where the conversations get really real. Sometimes they get pretty real. So, right. So let's go ahead and take a look, see who else has come on over here. Let's see. Keep going down. Yeah. Jessica S. No blue, folks. I gotta add the mods. I know Magneticus is one for sure. He's been here since day one. I'm supposed to add other mods, so I'm gonna for sure do it after the show. So as long as I have your YouTube links in here, I can go ahead and mod some of you guys. I definitely am going to do that tonight. Let's see who else is here. Let's see. Let's see. Don't make Elf blue. Use reverse psychology. Definitely. I got you, Elf. Let's see here. Moving down the list. I just want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Woo Riders DG. Thank you for coming on over, man. Appreciate you. Derek's been here for a minute too, man. I really do appreciate you. At least a year, man. So thanks for your support of the channel and the show and the message and helping get the message out there. Mothman says, hit those likes, guys. I like that idea. Come on, guys. Hit that thumbs up. I would appreciate you doing so wherever you're watching from. Let's see. And if you're on Twitter, hit the little heart emoji that says you like the show, and I would appreciate that too. That all matters, all helps. Let's see, moving on down the list. Let's make sure we haven't missed anyone else. We are moving down the list. I think we're looking good. Let me see. Okay. T-Bone stepped in the building. Thank you, T-Bone, for showing up here tonight. Um, Almost to the bottom of the list here. Dragonfly. Hey, Dragonfly, thanks for coming on over. Appreciate you showing up at the Social Dig late night calling show. Jim as well. Bim Jim stepping on in. We appreciate you, Jim, for coming on over. You're always here as well. Really appreciate it, right? Aloha Dave for sure. I'm here briefly, but need to go to bed soon. I'm old. LOL. I just appreciate you, Aloha Dave. Just period, right? So I just really do appreciate you guys coming over, supporting my little old channel over here, right? Eternity Eternal, thanks for coming on in. I appreciate you. Um, let's see, we are moving down the list. Jennifer stepped in. Peace, y'all. Appreciate you coming on over, Jennifer. And yeah, Philip Blair. Philip Blair stepped in too. We appreciate you coming on in, Philip Blair, saying greetings and yeah, let's get ready to get into the conversation. Let me see here. I appreciate that, Christine. She says we appreciate you too, Rob G. Your family, and I feel like you guys are family too. And Deb from Sacramento. See, Deb, I was gonna do trivia over at the after hours, but you weren't around. I was like, I'm not gonna do it if Deb's not here. So definitely, Deb. We're gonna make sure that we get in some trivia. I don't know, maybe we'll do something tonight. Depends on how the conversation goes and how long these batteries last on this camera, right? We're gonna see if we can get through some good stuff. I may have to change batteries mid show because obviously we just came off a 3-hour broadcast. Okay, yeah, looking really good. So appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, man, what can I say? Great conversation over at the after hours. I love it, right? I love it. And here's my thing, right? You guys have been over here enough to know what type, sometimes the conversations get deep and it's more humanity focused, which extraterrestrials and the things we're talking about there are also important things and topics and things that people want to hear. But a lot of people just, looking at a lot of people don't like to hear the spiritual side of it. I put a poll out there and so a lot of you took part in that, which I also appreciate over at Spaced Out Radio, where I was, polling, just trying to see what people look at or want to tune into most. A lot of people were talking about aliens and UFOs, which is obviously an important subject, and it is one of the, being that this moment is one of the most important moments in humanity's history because of that fact. But it's obvious at this channel we look further than that, right? So that's a short-term goal, short-term view, right? We pretty much know they're here. We know the ETs and the crafts are here based on others' experiences and stuff that I've caught on camera and others have caught on camera. So I think we officially know that. And I think it's more important, to talk about what we are doing after that, right? And that's why I love having conversations with like our guest Drew Banky and really a lot of the spiritual people. I enjoyed Zen Benefield the other day. I enjoyed Zen, but looking at the statistics, a lot of people don't really get what the spiritual conscious side of it, which really boggles my mind because this is mainly related to the spiritual and conscious side of it, right? As far as our ascension goes as human beings and our elevation, we know that there's parts of the consciousness that we still haven't tapped into or learned how to tap into completely that kind of raise us up as spiritual beings, human beings, right? So it doesn't really make sense to me that spirituality would have been one of the lower items on the poll. It just kind of blows my mind, but it kind of shows where the mindset is of a lot of people. A lot of people aren't looking, haven't even considered, having the conversation of what happens after disclosure. And shout out to Bryce Zabel. I would love to interview Bryce Zabel. I'm going to reach out to him as well. If any of you are ever in those chats or social media, you have Bryce Zabel's info, kind of let him know the Spaced Out Radio is looking, looking at him and would love to talk to him, because he did a book with Richard Dolan. I think it's like AD After Disclosure or something along those lines. I'm probably messing up the title, but the whole premise is essentially what it is that we're trying to do here, like really looking at and discussing our place after disclosure. You know what I mean? Because we could wake up tomorrow and you have the proverbial white UFO in the White House lawn moment, right? The catastrophic disclosure that we talk about, that could happen tomorrow morning. That could happen later tonight. It just we don't know. But as we talked with Drew Banke earlier, and I've even said this as well, it's not really having the mindset of a doomsday prepper, which I used to look at those preppers as like, wow, what are they doing? But it's more of, just being prepared. And I think that's really the root word. And, and it actually is what we need to do, is just kind of be prepared for afterwards, because as you saw on the last show not the last show, but the show, episode 3, season 2, episode 3, which was, what would the government do in the face of catastrophic disclosure? And having that sort of conversation, there is, and shout out Long Island Bigfoot. Hey, thanks for coming on in, man. We do appreciate you, sir. Appreciate you coming in. Long Island Bigfoot has an awesome channel too, man. Last I checked, I know he was at 25,000 subscribers. So shout out to Long Island Bigfoot gracing us with this presence tonight, as well as Castle Dude, who also has an awesome channel up and coming. And you definitely need to make sure that you guys are tuning in and checking out Castle Dude. And the fact that you guys are here, then I know that you guys align with the message, as far in understand the importance of where this conversation is, or the conversation that we need to have as humanity. So the more the merrier, and this kind of spread the word and get the message out there. Also, because we got Puck Elf in the back, and you guys are all welcome to join us tonight. But I want to make sure that anyone's out there, I see everyone in the chat, but if there's anyone just lurking, kind of watching, or even maybe over on Twitter, consider coming on over to YouTube just to kind of hit that subscribe button or the like button. I really would appreciate it. The channel would help, would appreciate it as well. Kind of helps the algorithm, kind of, which everybody says, right? But it really does. And it kind of helps this conversation get out there. And just like we talked about with Drew Banke, we're shooting for and hope to have him on a larger stage, to be able to have the conversation to a larger audience. And it's the same thing, same goals here at the Social Dig. These humanity affecting and hopefully conversations that are helping. We'd love to have these conversations on a larger stage. So, I just ask, if you do what you can, maybe to share this. If everyone could share it, right? Just share it one time, then I think we'd be okay. I think this is somebody calling in, but I can't take it on this phone. So let's see here. Calling from New York as well. Yeah, I'm gonna have to set up caller. If you could give me a second, give me a minute while I set up the call-in line, and then give me a call back, or I will call you. So let me go ahead and set that up. But yeah, it's this conversation is very important to everybody, and we talked about it earlier. The government wants to hide the truth. They think that we can't handle.
You can't handle the truth.
They think we can't handle the truth. But I think the one of the main things is with these sound bites that I have. I think this pretty much says
It
it,
is the
right?
world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
Pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth, and then what you end up finding out, because I would think everyone's ready for, to move into that next stage as humanity. But then this soundbite applies.
Have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged.
A lot of people aren't ready to be unplugged, and I think that's part of the problem here, right? So as I'm trying to talk through this as I get this call-in situation set up, and I will actually let me bring in Puck Elf while I do that. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, you know him from the chat, none other than the man with the plan, Puck Elf. How you doing, Puck Elf?
Oi, oi, high fives, bro. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Doing good. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on in. We had our last conversation and I tried to do it in clips, but I think our original recording, my audio was distorted, so it didn't come out right. So I will be clipping this show tonight. But I'm trying to set up the call-in line. We had someone call in. Caller, you're more than welcome to click on that link in the chat as well, and you can just jump on stage. I think we can do up to 10 people on the stage at once. So don't be afraid to hop in and join. That's what this show is for. This show is for you, the viewer, to come on and talk about the phenomena, or just talk about your experience, or just to kind of chime in on the things that we're talking about. And the conversation gets deep anytime Puck Elf joins the conversation. So
Got a new Yowie story from my local area. Someone sent me because they saw your episode, man. I linked it on Facebook, and people started sending me stories to tell, dude.
Nice. Go ahead and fill me in, Puck Elf. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
right. So, yeah, these are older blokes, and this is probably around 25 years old story when they saw it. And there's a similar region that I go camping near, but they've got their own hidden spot they were telling me about. And one day they were setting up their camp. They were going to stay for about a week or whatever. And there was this random cardboard box sitting on a stump just away from the camp. And they did their setting up or whatever and didn't think anything of it. Just like someone left some junk there on a stump. And then the next morning, when they were like actually acclimatized in and settled into their camp, the entire stump was gone. And the box was like unfolded and it wasn't even put together properly. Something was sitting there holding over its head, using it like a hat, looking through the little hole at him, dude. It's like, what the hell? What else could that be? Yeah.
Sitting under the box. So what is Yowie? Yowie, just for everyone out there, is Bigfoot essentially, right?
Yeah, basically an Australian hairy man. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
And so the only thing that could sit there looking like a stump that'd be that intelligent, holding a box over its head, spying at you, literally 20 meters away. The stump was just gone the next day, and the box was on the ground. Something was using the box as camouflage, looking at him.
That's crazy.
I know, right? No, I've only ever heard one other story of a Yowie wearing something on its head. And one had an old like rug or a mat that it was wearing on its head in the rain, I've heard. Like a sad looking towel, yeah.
And we have Jim stepping in as well. Jim joining the conversation. So you're more than welcome to go ahead and jump into. I'm just trying to get this phone line. Was that you calling, Jim?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So good. All right. So the phone line then is still open. Just went ahead and took the do not disturb off, so we should be good there. Did you have anything to add to this, Jim, before we jump into some stuff?
Oh, that was not me phoning in.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
No, it was. I'm sorry. I didn't get your question. Yeah. Okay, so you were saying you want people to tell their stories?
Yeah, and actually, because we have the new show, My Experience with the Phenomena. So I would love to actually have you come on that show and tell a story and tell your real story. But if you have anything else you can add, then yeah, definitely do that tonight.
I didn't see your other show.
Okay.
I have not found that yet.
Yeah, we did episode 1, which actually it's a great time to actually plug that. Let me go ahead and bring that up here. It's my experience with the phenomena, and let me see if I can bring it up on the screen. This is it right here. Okay, so is it gonna work? Okay, yeah. So my experience with the phenomena. This I did the first episode is my episode just about my experience. So went ahead and covered that, the shadow people, the UFOs, the phantom knocking, the orbs in the side house that we have here. So I covered everything in this episode. You could find it in under this channel in the playlist there. So awesome. And really the idea of this show is to have just the average person, the average viewer, experiencer, to come on and talk about, to tell a story about a particular instance you may have had with any part of the phenomena. So paranormal, ET, any part of this phenomena is set up for you to come on and talk about that. So if you have, and I know you have stories, Jim, so I would love to have you as a guest on that show. And so I guess you could still tell your story because it's all on this channel, so it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
go ahead and jump into that.
I was on a couple more of these shows like yours here, eh? And I'll go for I've gone for an hour and a half telling straight stories, paranormal experiences, one after the other, meeting aliens and seeing extinct animals and ghosts and one after the other. Yeah, I've done that, but after an hour and a half, I get kind of tired though. So, what's the topic tonight? I like talking. I got some things to say about consciousness.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, the Russians did an experiment, and it was an empirical, repeatable experiment. And I heard about this. Now, I've searched for the link to find this again. I can't find it. I think the reason it's kind of hidden is because it was done by the military. And then the US military has repeated this experiment as well. And it's totally about consciousness. And they demonstrated that there is a consciousness spectrum. It's not the EM spectrum, it's the consciousness spectrum. And it's different from the EM spectrum, right? I'll tell you exactly what they did. I'll try to do this quickly, but the Russians would be probably the 1970s. They were experimenting with telepathy, and they got a rabbit, and they hooked wires up to its brain and hooked the brain up to an oscilloscope or a graph, right? So the brain was producing a graph on a screen, the bunny's brain, right? Okay. And it would go along flat until if they dropped an ashtray on the floor or something, then there would be a jump up in the graph. There would be this response, right? Okay, fine. So then they took one of the rabbit's babies and took it into the next room and killed it. And the mother's brain gave a huge spike when the bunny rabbit died, when the baby bunny died, right? There was this huge spike. So, okay, they said, well, that's interesting. That looks like telepathy. And so they took now they took some of the baby bunnies away, drove them further away, and they killed them at certain times. And every time a baby bunny died, there was this spike in the mother's brain, right? So then, this is the good part. They took 5 baby bunnies down in a submarine below 200 meters, probably down to about a half a kilometer down in the ocean. And with them, they took an envelope. And inside the envelope, a random number generator had typed out times. So, and it typed out 5 times. And when these times arrived down in the submarine, they would kill a baby bunny. And they did that, and the mother rabbit's brain gave a huge spike every time they killed one of the baby bunnies. Every time, right on the second, boing, there was a big spike, which showed that, you see, because EM spectrum will not go through more than 200 meters of seawater. They know that. Even the longest wave radio won't go down that deep in the ocean. So it's not the M spectrum, from which you pretty much have to conclude it's a consciousness spectrum. That's what it is. And it's a very strong indication that there is a consciousness spectrum.
I've seen some new, sorry to interrupt, but just quickly, I've seen some new studies where they've actually had people stand in a room looking in a corner and totally blindfolded, sensory deprivation, everything. And they have someone stand behind them who's both happy or angry. And they can all get they can all sense the angry person behind them.
Sounds like
yeah, so there is something in a localized field about mentality that people can just sense ill will from people. Like that's probably the strongest emotion. And eventually, when they figure that out, we'll probably figure out how to like pick up the sense of love from someone. Yeah. Anyway, continue. Sorry to interrupt.
That was good. Go ahead, Jim. Oh, he must something happened. He disconnected. So yeah, okay. So Jim will be joining us.
Ruining people's train of thought. Sorry.
No, you were good. That was actually a great add to that, because I was going to talk about that as well. Or you sense that all the time when someone walks in the room, and you could kind of feel them walk in the room. That's that whole thing, and I don't know what it is. My vision of it is like maybe our consciousness. Well, for sure, it's like part of our aura. Our aura is part of the consciousness, and it kind of reaches outwards.
They're thinking it's some kind of people's brains. You know how we have brain waves. Now they're actually detecting outside the skull a localized field of what people are thinking. Now science is getting better. It's like we used to have the alpha, beta, gamma brain waves. Now we can detect up to 12 different types depending on what people are doing. They're just super subtle, right? And yeah, with more science, we're getting more data.
Definitely, yeah. And Jim is back. I know you were in the middle of a thought, Jim. If you want to continue.
Oh, it's just my audio is going on and off. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, good. Okay. My audio's weird here. Well, I got a new computer. It's a tower. So it's very weird. Trying to figure it out. But yeah, the consciousness spectrum. Yeah, I think that's an important thing to know, or to consider as a very strong hypothesis. And you'll see a lot of the academics in universities and so on. They're talking about consciousness now, but they really aren't getting it. They're far away from it, I think. And another way of looking at it, of course, is the indigenous people. I know the Inuit, the Eskimos, we used to call them. It was part of their life. They knew they had like cell phones because they would spend all winter quite isolated, and they could communicate with their families off 100 miles, 300 miles away through the winter, and they could chat back and forth, and it was just part of their life. They knew it very well. It was no mystery. It was normal, not paranormal to them. And I've read about this in many books. Especially, I like the older books, the older anthropology books. And I read one that was written in 1963 about this woman who went down to South America to live with the native people there. And they just accepted that they could talk to the chickens. And this woman was living out in the jungle with a little community. And when she came back home from town, she'd ask the chickens, "Well, what has everybody been doing all day?" And the chickens would tell her. And I find too that chickens are very easy to talk to. Any of those ground-dwelling birds are a good place to start with telepathy.
I hate chickens. My God, they're ugly and they stink and they're so dumb. But sure, they'd be easy to mentally impregnate because they're just ridiculously just blank and stupid. So I agree, yes.
Well, wild grouse are better. Any of the ground-dwelling birds are very easy to
scrub hens are way more smart, lovely, cuter, nicer. They live a more practical existence than like a chicken stuck in a poo hutch, you know? Yeah.
Well, I recommend that everybody, if you're into the paranormal, you should really try communicating with these wild animals. And the first thought you should send to them is, "You are beautiful. You are pretty. You are beautiful." If you send that message to a wild animal, they'll stop and turn and look at you like, "Oh, thank you," and they'll come right over. I've had deer and elk and walk right up to me, and of course the grouse are very easy to communicate with. They'll come right over. They'll bring their babies over to meet you and all this sort of thing. Now, but if that's a good place to start. That's like, you got to start at the beginning, and that's where you start is communicating with wild animals.
May I interject quickly? Did you know that a lot of native trackers in all cultures around the world will say that you can't teach people how to track. You just know it or you don't. And there's some mental vibe, even like a good hunter, they say they know how to not think like a predator. They think like a shrub. When they sit in the shrub, they think of being the shrub, and things don't sense them as much. It's an actual thing like trackers and hunters talk about, right? Your mental state, if you're actively putting that out there, I'm going to eat you, things won't come, Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we do have Aloha Dave definitely joining the conversation here with us as well. Welcome. Awesome panel so far. We do have room for others as well. And obviously, everybody knows to not speak over each other. So we're good to go. Appreciate you coming on in, Aloha Dave. All right. He's in the back there. Yep. Okay. But yeah, so with that being said, yeah, consciousness and the whole thing, and I was kind of keying in on Philip Blair was talking about having this effect or feeling over distances, which kind of reminds me of when like a mother's intuition, like whatever that is I think the same thing that we're talking about, where a mother, and is, I don't know if it's specific to women or mothers, but they seem to know or get a sense of when their children are feeling, having negative energies focused on them is probably the best way I could say it. And they tend to call in those moments, and they just know. And I think it's kind of leaning into what you're talking about there, Jim. Jim's audio may be messing up here, but yeah, I think it's kind of proven, right? And then with the pets, right? The pets and their ability to sense when someone is there. I think it goes further than hearing. I don't think it's just hearing, because there have been times where my dogs were waiting at the door, and I know they couldn't have heard me coming up. They had to sense it. And I think that's I don't know, that's one of the 6, 7, 8 senses or whatever, and I think we do a bunch of different, I think we have a bunch of different senses that we haven't tapped into or we don't fully understand.
I have a comment about that.
Yeah, go ahead. Definitely.
Yeah, there's been studies done years ago that animals do have ESP, or sixth sense. And
Yeah.
matter of fact, Duke University did a study in the 50s about that.
Yeah. I would imagine. Well, I didn't know about the study, but I've seen it proof positive that and it just blows my mind every single time, because I'm like, there's no way they could have heard this person. They knew the mailman or the delivery guy was here before he even got out the truck, before he even pulled up, minutes and minutes before. I'm like, what are you barking at? What are you doing? And then a few minutes later, here goes the delivery guy. I'm like, mind blown.
Yeah, I just to let you know, I've been studying this subject for about 50 years roughly, and
Wow.
I do experiments with my own animals, and it does work.
Wow. Just think about that. I mean, it just it just it's like the unspoken communication of language. And just like when someone walks in the room and you can feel, just like Puck was talking about, the experiment of feeling negative or positive energies, you could sense when someone is walking in with that negative aura. It's almost like a suffocating whatever it is. I don't even know what to call it, right? But I think we have a lot of examples of that to be able to have enough data to say that it's an actual thing. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, it kind of gets me a bit irked when people start running around claiming they're empaths and they've got magic powers. Because I think everyone has the ability to use empathy and just look at someone and say, oh, yeah, don't talk to them. They're pissed off, you know?
Exactly. Or you can tell usually if someone has a nefarious intent, you can just feel that.
It's something
Um,
suspicious. Yes.
you could feel when someone is, and that's the scary part. The one that scares me, or not really scares me, but it kind of shakes me a little, is when you feel someone staring at you and then you turn around and someone's looking at you right in your eyeballs, and it's like that's so real, and it's just like it's weird. It's just weird.
I got some Dan Aykroyd, 100% genuine Crystal Skull vodka, Rob.
Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd, 100% genuine Crystal Skull vodka. I'm saving this to have some shots when the aliens land, or I might have a shot now. Here we go.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just a funny thing. It's just because we're into aliens. I saw it on the shelf and I had to get it.
Yeah, Dave told me he went to Area 51. Dave Scott, when he went to Area 51, he visited the alien build, the one with the tall alien, the little, looks like a hangar almost, but he bought $80 bottle of alien head tequilas, just the alien head, and he doesn't want to drink it because he wants to keep the alien head. I'm like, dude, you can drink it and then just fill it back up with water or something.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. I was going to put like a colored dye in it that's like red or something. It can make it like all gothy and cool or something.
There you go.
You know,
there you go. But
turn it into my health potion. Or I'll put green in it and it can be my like rogue World of Warcraft poison, my little skull bottle.
That's funny. But yeah, looking into that, talking about that, just like when you get into the male female or male female female, either one, but just the attraction, right? Just that unspoken attraction, what they call, I guess, love at first sight is what they call it. But that whole little energy that happens, and there's just so many examples of how it's obvious that it's something reaching out of us in order to connect with that other person. And so pheromones. Okay, there we go.
I'm a ridiculously sappy romantic, Rob. You know, like, yeah, I'm so down for that. You know, love at first sight.
Yeah.
And then have passion for 3 months. And then after 3 months, you got to make an adult decision to be in love. And that's like a adult contract that you're going to work it out, you know? Yeah.
Right.
That's what it means. But I'm a hopeless sap. Yeah, I write poems and stuff. Yeah, it's dumb.
It's not actually, but it's part of that. Like I said, so even with the poem, for example, the feeling that someone can get from hearing you read one, I think that's part of it too. It's just that.
Would you like to hear a short one that's only 4 lines and it's a funny little limerick one?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's cute and romantic.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll just bring up my notepad. Pop it over here, another screen. Bring you back up. Wait, you're on the wrong screen now. What am I doing? I'll get there. Here we are. Okay.
Deb from Sack calls it lust at first sight. Yeah, I've heard that before too, Deb. That's a feeling too. It's definitely an
here we go. I haven't named it yet, but this is a romantic, sappy poem that gets everyone, right? Walls are built like castles in my mind, with princess towers and dragons of all kinds. Beneath the wall is a secret garden of my heart, where my soul lingers, one space and a world apart. There are corners where weeds can grow, but I love you, and I also have a funny toe. In the center place a flower grew. It's fluffy and pink. It's the one for me and you.
That is awesome. That is awesome. A round of applause. If I had an applause button, I would hit it for you right now. Awesome for you to share that with us. We do appreciate that there. Let me check.
Happy, I know, but I gotta
Nah,
have that little joke in there to make you smile too.
I'm kind of that way too, though, Elf. I mean, I think anything where you can show emotion, anything that resonates out there with people, you know, it's just another example of that unspoken thing that's able to touch people from miles away.
I'm a classic thespian. Like, if I can't express myself through emotion, I'll sing a song, or I'll create something, or I'll paint something, or I'll get some mud and make a pot. You know, I'll be doing something creative to express myself, you know.
Yeah. Definitely. Woo Riders DG Derek Galloway is posing a good question too, right? And how come nobody ever calls out the bigger channels on YouTube and ufology to show their evidence, yet smaller channels have to provide receipts every time they state everything? How do you even begin to answer that?
We can just talk about fangirl Simpson thoughts if you want for an hour.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I don't give me an example of a bigger channel, Derek, that displays that, because my whole thing is, and I've said this 1,000 times, like I think peak channels in this field. Yeah, you got something? Oh, you're waving.
Yeah, waves to Maggie. Sorry.
Hey, Maggie, thanks for coming in. Yep. Maggie M10, let me bring her on up here. Thanks for coming in, Maggie. But yeah, I find that just channels in general, when I look around ufology, because the reason why I take the approach I take is because I think the conversation, like, I think we're focused on most channels are focused on the wrong thing. A lot of them focus on the government and what are they going to do. A lot of them focus on ETs are ETs real or not. But who out there is really preparing themselves for the conversation after disclosure? Like, and that's why I always say, if disclosure hit tomorrow, and you look at the channels, like you have viewers and you kind of have a stage to stand on, and it's kind of your duty as the host of a show or the person on the platform to set your viewers up for the right thing. And I just think a lot of channels aren't doing that. And that's what your comment reminded me of, Derek. Kind of yeah, it's just an observation. You notice the list is too long. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, go ahead.
May I do a little more show and tell, Rob? I bought myself a new leather Indiana Jones archaeologist bag.
You'll see that.
It's so cute, dude. Check that out. It's so Giorgio Tsoukalos, man.
Yeah, that is. That's definitely an Indiana Jones bag.
It's got the drawstrings. It's got like map zippers and pouches in it and stuff.
Yeah,
I've got that's a first aid kit in there.
You need that.
My big shears and my Leatherman and my texters and notepads and stuff in there.
You need that. Sounds like a bug out bag.
Oh, it's just stuff I carry with me everywhere. I've also got bales of like paracord in there. And like the back two straps can also zip together, and they become like a single shoulder bag if you want it to be, like a full Eshe fuckwit. Oh, sorry, I swore.
You're good. It's late night calling show. You're good.
Then I got my retarded dork stuff hanging off there. Like I got my telescopic pen on the right side, my mini pen, and then on the other side, that's where I hang my keys and my extra hair ties. And a little lock for my pocket knife case.
Yeah, that is awesome. Seems like the bag version of a Swiss Army knife. Really, is what it is.
I'm getting there. I'll give you a little quick demo of the outfit so far. Hold on. I'll get the hat.
Let's set the stage for Puck Elf here.
This is Elf's Indiana Jonesness. I got the jacket.
That is the indie jacket, though. That is the indie jacket.
I have a question for Polk. Where's he originally from?
I'm born in the same town I'm still living in Australia. So there we go. Oh, there's the outfit so far. And now I got the backpack.
Yeah, that's I like that, Elf. I like that.
I know, right? It's
That
so
is
cool.
awesome. That is, dude. That is. Did you do that on purpose? Did you put the indie outfit together on purpose?
It's just stuff I've been collecting for ages because I can't find a good jacket that fits me. So I had to get this antique one from the 70s because I'm built like Skeletor.
Man, that's awesome,
Yeah, and
dude.
then that leather shop was closing down. He's a local crafter. And I looked under the sticker that he had on it, and it was $300. $120 I got it for. I'm like, dude, I bought him lunch. I bought him a bacon and egg roll because that's too cheap. You know, yeah.
That is awesome. And no, Andy said, "Love you, love." Says, "Go forth, find the crystal skull." But you have the crystal skull. You just showed it. Exactly. Okay, I like
I'm
that.
gonna penetrate you with my mind. Let's do the Vulcan mind meld on it and see what we get.
That is
Dan
awesome.
Aykroyd is crazy.
That is awesome. That is awesome stuff. Puck, thanks for sharing that with us. That is awesome, actually.
Yep.
That is actually the Indiana Jones jacket and hat. So that is totally awesome for sure. Definitely. So we got you here, Aloha Dave. Did you have some things you wanted to touch on?
I do. I want you to expand on what you would like for your format for your new segment.
Okay, yes, definitely. So with the new show, essentially, I just wanted to be. I really wanted to. I wanted to be not so much interview format. I would like, in a perfect world, to have a viewer come on and kind of tell their experience in a story format. So almost like a detailed story. If you think about like maybe who is that? Gosh, not Lon Strickler, but I guess Lon Strickler too. Like some of the Phantom of Monster stuff, like maybe telling the story in that sort of format.
Like
And
Mr. Ballin format.
I haven't really watched Mr. Ballin. Maybe I
He
haven't.
tells it from a first-hand perspective and uses a lot of emotion as if he's the character, and it makes
Okay.
the story a lot more engaging. And
Yes.
yeah, and I'm going to try and write some things like that about the Yowie sightings and stuff. So maybe I can try to do that as if I'm the one. You know,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So telling it in the story format and from your perspective, your story. So whatever it is, it could be the paranormal, it could be ET visitation, it could be ET sighting, just anything that ties into the phenomena. It doesn't matter if big or small, if you feel it's unimportant or not, just sharing your experience, whatever it is. And that's story format essentially is what I would like to have. I just want what I'm trying not to do. Paramarv is here. Let me bring Paramarv in. Hey, Paramarv, thanks for coming in.
Hey,
Appreciate
sorry,
you,
I was
buddy.
typing for the chat and I didn't realize it was.
Yeah, no. And I was just saying, yeah, so just story format, Aloha Dave is kind of, what I would like to have if possible. Just trying to go as far away from interview style as possible.
More narrative driven with
Yes.
like a personal sense and emotion.
Yes. So I woke up
And then,
one
then
night
if you flip
and
it, you can add like some images to it and stuff, and it's great, yeah.
yes, and what I'm gonna do is so I would know obviously ahead of time what your experience is, and then depending on what part of the phenomena that it is, I would spend, like I did on the other episode, I would spend the first part of that show talking about that part of the phenomena, kind of informational wise, and then afterwards bring you in to tell your story about your experience with the phenomena as it relates, and then that would kind of be the basis of the show here.
I don't know how I could actually do a first-person account of someone's story because I'm Australian. It's going to be so full of colourful language, I couldn't even publish it. Yeah, no, like,
Yeah, no, but you have the right idea, so you know exactly kind of what it would I really want from it. And I think it just I think as that catalog would build itself up, that you end up having a catalog of personal stories, detailing a person's experience, because I think in that story format that it may resonate a lot better and align with maybe someone else out there who's experiencing the same thing or something along those lines. So that's Aloha Dave, what I would like to have. And I would love to have anyone listening here as a guest on that show, because it's for you guys, not for researchers or people with books, or it's not for that. It's just for the average, everyday person that has had an experience with the phenomenon. And you're able to chime in too, Paramar, anytime. If you got anything you want to bring up, definitely do so.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, I was just going to ask if I could ask a little bit about Aloha Dave's background and how he got into this.
Great question.
Oh,
And we'll try not to steal too much thunder from an actual particular experience so that you can save those for Rob G's Experiencer show.
Yeah.
okay. Excuse me. Pardon me. You want to know how I got into this?
Yeah, because I mean, you throw some really interesting stuff in the chat, and it's like, wait a minute, this guy knows something.
Right.
So
Well,
I'm curious, what's back there? What's in that background?
yeah, I have a story, and Rob knows part of it. And
Oh, okay.
and, uh, and mine dates back to childhood. But
Okay.
I always thought the woo-woo part was a lot of bullshit. Or pardon me, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be said on the channel.
That's
But
true. Yeah. You're
yeah,
fine.
and it wasn't until a few years ago that I thought, there's something to this. And primarily, I think probably when the New York Times article came out in 2017, that's when I thought, this is really getting interesting. And then and I've always thought I'm actually a trained scientist, computer scientist. So I practice the scientific method, and I always think you have to have proof before you make any judgments on what is reality, etc.
Any particular
But
field? May I ask that
well,
without getting you in trouble?
no, I'm not getting in trouble, but just let's say
Okay.
computer science in general. But
Okay.
when you're in computer science, you're trained in the scientific method, so you
Oh yeah, absolutely.
require proof and tests, etc. So that's the way my brain works. Uh, but when I saw that article and started seeing the exhibits that they presented in that article, and things subsequent to that, I thought, well, there's a lot more to this than I thought. And it was after that I started exploring the different channels and the different articles, etc., on the subject matter. And I started to really ponder what's really going on. And to be honest with you, this year was kind of a monumental year for me, because there was something posted on Twitter by a gentleman named, he goes by the Juan. I think it's Planet 145. And he posted something from Reddit. And it was some symbols that he posted that really piqued my interest. And that really threw me for a loop. And that related back to something that happened to me in childhood. So when that happened, it really started getting me thinking about things. And I started really understanding why people are talking about being abducted and their experiences, etc. And I really started investigating this much more.
Okay.
Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And flip it right back on you, Paramarv, because you are also in the chat, always chiming in with some awesome stuff. And I know you have to have some insight into it, if not an experience, doesn't have to be, but at least some insight in the conversation that's being had.
No, I've been pretty upfront that, to the best of my knowledge, I am not an experiencer in any such way. Um, I I would like to explore a regression just to confirm that, because every once in a while I get a weird idea about something that, I don't know, it's more of a feeling or anything that happened at my grandmother's house down in Kentucky 45-ish years ago. So, I mean, it would be well buried at this point, but yeah, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not an experiencer.
And I've said this before, and I think truthfully, maybe we all are actually experiencers, but we just don't remember. Because my theory is that with these abductions, I think my theory is that we're not supposed to remember any of it. Like, same way we go out and tag an animal, all they know is they get hit with something, they go down,
Hmm.
we do our thing with them, and then by the time we're done, we leave, they wake up, and we're nowhere to be seen. And I kind of think that's what's supposed to happen with us. But I think just some people end up waking up during the experience, and those are the people that are able to tell the story. But I really think it's potentially possible that there are a lot more of us that actually have had that experience, and maybe regression. And I've said this to my lady as well. I think if it's somewhere in here in your mind, and you just can't access it in your natural normal living life, I think regression or hypnotism or something along those lines may be able to tap into that. So you may be surprised if you do that regression, they come back and you recall all sorts of weird stuff. Because I have a mark on my arm that I just don't know where it came from. And I've seen this for years, and I just can't remember a time where this happened. I can't. So the only, it makes me want to look into regression, and then I am this year, to see maybe if that was something. I'm not saying it is, but I don't know where it came from, and maybe regression uncovers that. So you may be an experiencer and just unaware of it.
I agree with you, Rob.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah,
do
I was
you
going to
think?
ask if you'd set a date yet, because I know that you were talking about doing that sometime this calendar year. So I was just curious. I'm kind of
Yeah,
following that in the back of my mind.
that I'm trying. It's because I'm kind of scared too, right?
Hmm.
Because, and I use scared, but I don't really mean scared. It's unsettling what the results might be. Because if I find out that this has happened before, and maybe it's happening other times as well, then it's just kind of, do I really want to know that? It ends up being the question. And it's like, that's kind of where I'm at. So as soon as I can make my mind up on that is when I will set up a date. I really want to pick someone who is really known for their regression techniques and kind of go with the person like that. But yeah, that is definitely on the table. And some people say, and you've heard, I'm sure, some people say that you don't want to do regression, and I think what they mean by that is because if you may uncover something that kind of messes with you
Yeah.
mentally going forward, and you have to be ready for that sort of information. And I'm just trying to make sure that I am ready for that, especially you've seen all the other stuff that's happening, and I'm sitting here real time, like flustered and kind of discombobulated thinking about it, even though I talk about it all the time. But it's different when you're starting to like experience the stuff. And it's like, it just shows me, like Jack said, Jax Harmon, that maybe it, going back to the conversation I had with the reptilian channeler, who, that's a whole nother story. But he did ask me if I'd be open to meeting or talking to one of these reptilians or extraterrestrials. I did say yes, I'm open and okay. And then once I said that, that's when these things started happening. I can't say if they're related or not, but it's pretty weird that that would be the case. But to you, Paramore, you have it would be, because you haven't had an experience that you know of, it's cool to get your perspective, because you obviously know this is a real thing, and it's kind of cool to see what your perspective is about the things that you see, like the stories that you've heard. How do you process those, and kind of what is your outlook on the phenomena in general based on what you've learned about it?
Well, I can understand your hesitancy because if you listen to Barney Hill regression or the Whitley Strieber regression, those fellows are not having a good time. They are screaming like 3-year-old girls on a roller coaster, man.
Yeah,
It's unsettling, very unsettling. But at
yeah,
the same time, I think there can be a lot of good done if it's handled well and things are, and you're in a safe place. I mean, you're in somebody's office or something. So, I mean, it's not like you're going to run out into the street or anything, panic or anything. So, um, I don't know, but I think it's very real. Every once in a while, it comes up about implanted memories or false memories or something, and I suspect that there certainly was that happening in some situations, late 80s, early 90s. But I think generally speaking, if you get someone reputable, you're gonna be fine. So, uh, especially someone who's done this a few times, you know.
right.
I agree with
So
Mark.
Yeah, go ahead. You chime in, Law, Dave.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. If you, it can be scary, but I suspect if my attitude is connecting the dots.
yep.
If you have mysteries in your life and unusual experiences, and you are really frustrated about what that all means, then if you can connect the dots, going through regression or whatever it takes to try to do that might make sense for a particular person.
Yeah, breadcrumbs is the phrase I use, but yeah, it's the same sort of thing, just
Yeah,
little breadcrumbs that lead you back to
exactly.
some bigger
And,
revelation.
and,
Yeah.
and I don't, fortunately, I don't live that far from Barbara Lamb. And for the last few months, I've been seriously considering trying to book an appointment with her.
Yeah, Lamb is she has a good reputation. Deb Shakti, I
Yes,
think, would be great.
yes.
Deb,
And
yeah,
Rob's got it in on the Deb Shakti now. So
yeah, yeah. We love each other. It's
Yeah.
all love, and she's gonna be on actually soon. So I think in a few weeks, couple weeks. So maybe yeah,
oh, that would
that
be great.
talk about yeah. She's set already to come in. So okay. Yeah, I'm trying to add some mods out there, guys. I don't even remember how to do it, but I'm gonna try to do so now. Yeah, so also Paramore, just what is your let me ask you this. This maybe this somewhere we can go. What do you think about what happened to the ancient civilizations, with breakaway civilizations? What's your thought on that? And what do you think is the most likely cause of those civilizations just pretty much disappearing?
Yeah, this came up in chat in SOR chat one night this week where Sierra was, saying something about how Atlantis had been, tragically eliminated, essentially. And I said, yeah, I don't know if you know this, but there are theories out there that our whole civilization's been rebooted 4 or 5 times now, and we've had to start over from scratch, basically. And I think it's really interesting because there are, I don't have any references offhand, but there are, certain websites where you'll go and find like 10 items that shouldn't exist, and there's like a spark plug that's encased in a rock. Right. So the spark plug has been there for hundreds of thousands of years in theory. I mean, there's really no other way to encase it in a rock. It just things that are out of place that shouldn't exist since they've only been around here on our timeline for 150 years, let's say. So, but and again, Lemuria came up a couple times, and the whole um, Lemurian civilization. That's fascinating to me. As to what took these down, what put them asunder, I have no idea. Um, I don't know enough about any of them to speak to that with any degree of knowledge. And that's part of the problem because they did go away and didn't leave much for us to go on. I mean, I think we might have to rely on someone like a remote viewer or a psychic or something to get some tips, and then use that information to start building more tangible evidence as to what may or may not have happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes sense. The only thing I look at is because yeah, that would be the definitive way, I'm sure, to at least get some information on that. What I look at is what's common, right? What when we talk about different civilizations, it's likely that is it more likely that different things happen to those civilizations to make them fall or disappear, or is it more likely that something similar or the same, like maybe a catastrophic event or you know I have a few theories about that, and people call it fear mongering, but it's potentially I've thought about ETs maybe bringing us back down a level once we hit a certain height. Like even
Mhm.
now, I feel like in the moment we're in, I feel like if we don't evolve or kind of uh, raise our vibration, that maybe they'll knock us back down again, to kind of not really eliminate us, but to kind of take us back a few steps, knock us down a few pegs, so we can
Yeah.
try to now get it right this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and there are a lot of people who believe that the ETs will not let us have a nuclear war, a full-out nuclear war,
I
because they're
hear.
interested in our planet. I don't know. I think that's a lot of faith. They may be right. Let's try not to find out, though.
Pretty much.
On what it may make comment on what Marv's saying is that I totally agree with what you just said. And supposedly the scientists study this. They say every 6,000 to 12,000 years there's a reset. The
Mm.
12,000 mark is a really big deal. And the other thing you said regarding the nuclear war, I totally agree with you on that one. They're not going to let us do it. I
Okay.
hope.
What now? Why do you say that?
Well, look at the history of the UFOs over nuclear sites in the United States, Russia, etc.
Right.
They had made it known that they know how to control our electronics, and they can do really strange things without us really having any control over what they're doing.
Yeah.
Bob Salas is one of the key
Malmstrom. Yeah.
people that have talked about this.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. I
therefore,
agree that that's encouraging, but maybe they're just trying to get our attention too.
you got a good point. You got a good point. The other thing I would say is, if you're not familiar with Dr. John Brandenburg, he has done some really interesting studies about what happened on Mars. And what he thinks happened about 1 million to 2 million years ago, they had an amazing nuclear holocaust that occurred on Mars. And the other thing they were able to figure this out scientifically based on the elements in the atmosphere of Mars. And what he said was that these nuclear explosions occurred like, thousands of feet above the planet, but they actually, eliminated the planet with any life form when they did that. So obviously the destruction of what nuclear energy can do has been known for a very long time, if he is correct.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with this gentleman.
Dr. John Brandenburg.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Did Dr. Brandenburg have any indication or any, I should say, inclination as to whether or not Martians survived and are underground, as
well,
some
who
have
knows? Who
speculated?
knows? I
Okay.
mean, there's obvious speculation that the Martians
Yeah.
actually came to the Earth, and maybe they're the Anunnaki. Who knows? I mean, I have no
True.
idea. But
Maybe we're part Martian. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay. Yeah, I just wonder because that's something that fascinates me too, the whole underground Martian civilization that, like Andrew Bishago, for example, and a host of others say, that they're underground. They are there. So.
And if you go back to Joseph Monaco, which was brought up in the previous sword episode tonight.
Right.
You know, he talks about when he remote viewed Martian, Mars. Well, he didn't know he was remote viewing Mars at the time, but it was like a million years ago, and he identified a civilization there. I mean, not people, not human, not beings per se, but structures, etc., that were existing, and so that and implies that there was a civilization on Mars. So if you go with the story about the Anunnaki being like, 12 to 13, 15 feet tall, whatever that is, and coming to Earth based on the Sumerian tablets, then there's a connection there, possibly.
Now, did McMonagle see? I don't recall. Did he see running water on Mars at the time?
No, I don't recall him saying that. But what he did see, he saw buildings. He saw a very large, like pyramidal structure with, and he saw what I got from what I read about this and heard about it is that he saw what looked like some type of being in a kind of a static state in a
like suspended animation.
Well, what's the term for that?
Stasis.
Yes, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, to the point where they were waiting to be rescued. That was what he implied. And he didn't know when he did that remote viewing, he did not know what he was remote viewing.
Like Snow White waiting for the kiss, right?
Pardon me?
Like Snow White waiting for the prince to kiss her, right?
He didn't know
that.
exactly. He did not know what he was remote viewing. He was given this by the CIA, and he did it, and this is what came back when he did it. He was just given coordinates. He had no idea it was on another planet. He thought it was on Earth.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't get to hear that part. I was just adding mods. I think you guys are all mods now. Let me check Paramore. Marv, put a message in there real quick so I can tag your and Jim. You guys are obviously here all the time, man. So I appreciate it. So definitely want to show back love right now. Jim, if you could post some, or Aloha Dave, I'm sorry, Aloha Dave, if you could post something in the chat, I would love to mod you.
I'm sorry, what do you want me to post in the chat?
Just anything, just a test message. I'm going to want to add you as a mod.
Okay.
Okay, great. And then Travis Moose Deuce as well. Yeah, this is all. I trust each and every one of you guys for sure, man. Let me see. Did I miss anyone? Okay, looking good, looking good. Okay. Wrenches are in the building now. Okay, yeah. So with that being said, where do you, and I guess this question could go to either one of you guys. What do you hope for humanity on the other side of disclosure? Like, if in your perfect world, if you could pick a vision for the future, including whether or not we deal with governments going forward, because I think that's still debatable. What would be your vision, pie in the sky vision for humanity post disclosure?
Dave, I'll defer to you. Go ahead.
Oh. No, Mark, go first.
Honestly, I don't mean to cop out here, but I try not to have too many hopes because it just disappoints you, right? It sets you up for disappointment. True. But I guess, if if we're talking about a wish list here, I mean, I would love to see a mutually beneficial relationship with someone from off-world, and then maybe some ones, more than one, because there's just statistically speaking, it seems so impossible that we are actually alone. So I got to believe there's a lot more happening out there than we're aware of. So it would be great if we were able to build, relationships with those people and do something productive here and maybe there. It's interesting because there you hear different stories about abductions, and one of the things they say is that, yeah, they abducted me and they studied my emotions because they can't relate to that. They don't understand how emotions work. So that's one thing that we have that might be able to teach them. I don't know if they have that capacity, but I guess that's something to explore. So, and then they could give us 0 point energy, maybe,
Yeah, we're already
and
trying to steal that from them now. We are. So,
well, I think we got to steal it from our government at this point.
yeah, that's what I mean. I think they're trying to
Okay.
steal it from the ETs right now.
I think they've
And
got it.
here's a question I have and contemplate is like you have like who's he just did Carl Nell, right? So he just did the Salk convention conference, whatever, and he states he doubles down on what Gallaudet said about us actually being in contact with these things. So then the question goes to like if they're in contact with our governments, then you have to wonder what type of deals may have been made or promises that, and the government doesn't always look out for the whole, right? So maybe they're going to look out for their best interest. So the deals that they would make are going to be curbed to benefit the powers, right? And maybe not necessarily humanity. So I wonder what type of deals they have made or promises, like for instance, a promise to get rid of nuclear weapons. They're like, hey, you guys need to get rid of these weapons. You have 60 years, or you have 80 years to go ahead and get this done, and or else this may happen. So, and then we wouldn't know what that repercussion is until we're in the moment of it happening. So, like, what do you think about that outlook and perspective, and the fact that the government might be speaking on our behalf when it comes to these extraterrestrials?
Well, I think we may have already seen it a little bit in a small microcosm with the Eisenhower situation back in, what was that, February of 52 or something, I think, where he supposedly had this meeting, and supposedly there were two separate meetings, and one of them he declined. He says, "No, we're not going to do that. You're not going to take humans." And then the second one, supposedly there was some sort of exchange happening. There was some sort of consideration and exchange of consideration where we got some technology, and maybe depending on the story you hear, maybe we were a little more amenable to giving up a few folks. I don't know, but yeah, I think that they're going to look for. I'm sorry, they being the government or whatever official is negotiating this is going to look for the best deal they think they can get. And I think that one of the needs that they see um, is energy. So I think they've already got that. If not, they're damn close.
So basically, it's a selfish perspective because it's not energy for us; it's energy to power these weapons. So it's kind of selfish perspective on the government's behalf, which is expected. But yeah, go ahead, Aloha, Dave.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with Marv. The Eisenhower meetings are probably potentially true based on so much evidence that's been reported over the years. But if one wants to think about it, why would the government not want to disclose that we are either in communication with off-world beings or NHI, et cetera? If they have no control over their skies, et cetera, and that they have no way to protect human beings from whatever that might be, that would really kind of negate their viability as being reliable for protecting the human race. And I think that's the main reason they will never, ever disclose that NHI, UAPs, UFOs, et cetera, exist, period. So it's going to be upon the people like us that look to investigate this, that have potential contacts, abductions, et cetera, and report on this. We're the ones that are going to be disclosing whatever is going to be disclosed. The government will never do that. It won't be U.S., United States. It won't be Russia. It won't be China or whatever other country there is.
I think the reason is two-pronged. Number one, CYA.
Yes.
Cover your, okay.
Exactly.
They need to cover up the sins of the past. Number two
Exactly.
is if they admit that there are NHI out here and they can't do anything about them, then they're not as omnipotent as they make themselves out to be.
Exactly.
So that's a lethal combination when you make people mad by revealing all these sins and all these wrongs in the past, and then you admit, hey, I can't do anything about it. That is the spark for revolution right there.
Bingo.
So I don't think they'll ever. That's why I keep saying we are disclosure, not the government. We're never going to get that, which is what you were just saying, I believe. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We definitely are disclosure. And so, with that being said, then, okay, first of all, do you believe that these things are here for love and light, or do you think there's a little bit of both going on? What is your perspective on that?
Dave, I'll defer to you. I'll keep going first.
Okay, I will go with a little bit of both. I don't think we really know for sure what's really going on here, what the agenda is. Mm-hmm. And I know, I like Dr. Stephen Greer, and I do watch his stuff, and I have for a very long time. He thinks they're all wonderful, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure about that. I kind of go with the Luis Elizondo perspective that we're not really sure what's really their agenda, and that we have to be cautious about that. That's my perspective.
I agree. I was going to say both. I have a hard time. I think it's like us. I have heard many people say that they're just like us in the respect that you got a broad spectrum of individuals. Some of them are going to be good, some of them are going to be bad, and a bunch of them are going to be in the middle, trying to do something good, but they make mistakes.
Great.
And yeah, I just my concern is when you hear the extremes, where you hear that the reptilians, they eat people. And then you get Dolly Saffron that comes on and says, no, that absolutely does not happen. And then 3 nights later, you get a different guest on who says, oh yeah, I saw the bones. He's like, what? So I don't think everyone has all the answers. I certainly don't think Dolly Saffron, she seems like a sweetheart. She's not lying to us. And I don't think the guy saying he saw the bones either. I mean, I think it's somewhere in between. The truth usually is.
So with that being said, so we agree. It seems like we all agree that there are definitely two sides to this. So you have to ask yourself then, which side is interfacing with the government then? Yeah. Because that means two different things as far as what the ultimatums could be, as far as if we don't align with what it is that they are requesting from us. And so that's why I say it's always better to be prepared, because they could have made a messed up deal on our behalf with the malevolent ones who are just going to unleash some crazy something if the government doesn't meet the demands. Otherwise, the malevolent, the consequences aren't going to be as great. But that's why that's why I'm not fully. They say that they're talking to the government, but then I would wonder why then they show themselves to us, or they interface directly with us if they're making deals with the government, right? Because if they are consciously making deals, then I'm sure part of the deal on the government side is, hey, don't interface with our people, and because that allows the government to control the narrative. So maybe they're interfacing with a particular species, but then we're seeing or having direct contact with the other ones, or so I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you go back to Eisenhower. I keep going back to this, but that in one of the versions of the story, that was what happened, where there was a transfer of technology, and there was some allotment of individuals that the aliens were allowed to take, and the aliens were taking more than that, supposedly. So, you know, uh, that would be a bad deal negotiated on our behalf with the wrong people.
I would,
Yeah,
I would like, I would like to, yeah, I would like to add that the most recent statements from Colonel Carl Nell and Admiral Tim Gallaudet, they both basically stated that we've been in contact with non-human intelligence.
Mm.
They didn't say how long we've been doing that, but they both indicated that we've been in contact with non-human intelligence. So that kind of substantiates the Eisenhower stories.
Did they indicate which ones?
No, they did not indicate
Yeah.
which ones. They just made a very general blanket statement about it.
Yeah. And to most people, to people in our sphere, we're curious about which ones, but the vast majority of people across America are not going to care. They're not going to know. Yeah.
No, the
So,
majority of people, at least in the United States, are interested in paying a rent or mortgage and putting food on the table with their family, and that's about it.
yep.
So
Yep.
we're kind of a small percentage of the people that are kind of interested in what's really going on.
Absolutely.
all right. And I'm just typing in the chat real quick, but yeah. So with that being said, I don't know if I've asked you guys, but I guess I haven't because I haven't talked to you directly. I've seen you in the chat maybe answer these things, but what are you for? Controlled or catastrophic disclosure? Which one are you with? And then maybe say why.
Dave, I'll defer to you.
Originally, I would have preferred controlled disclosure.
Mhm.
Apparently, that's not going to happen. so it's probably going to have to be catastrophic. But no one knows what that's going to really entail, and that's really the problem. But
I like the idea of
controlled disclosure would have been the more advantageous way of going forward.
Yeah, I like the idea of controlled, but I think they realize they can't control it. So I think the only way it really happens is catastrophic.
I agree with you because they don't want to disclose it. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's where I'm at with that. Right? I definitely want catastrophic disclosure. I want this to happen so bad, and I think that happens with either the ETs just showing up, or I think the other way it could happen from the government's end is just someone breaking the NDA, which I'm totally with. Actually, I just want to say I'm with the breaking of an NDA if it is solely related to the presence of extraterrestrials, because that should not be something that is covered under an NDA. That so if it is, then they need to just break that. So I'm just hoping someone within the government understands that, or at least thinks about that at some point. Like, I'm really not holding any secrets except for the fact that the ETs are here. So I'm just going to go ahead and break the NDA, because I think, even though there are technically legal implications that come with breaking an NDA, I just really feel like the people wouldn't let that happen. I feel like the people seeing what the case is would kind of stand behind that person. I would hope so. And then if we could come to an agreement on that as a community, then maybe that kind of would maybe set up someone to come to the realization that it might be okay to speak on this. And I think technically we might be seeing more of this right now, with a lot of the people who you wouldn't think would come out and say things are actually coming out to say things. People who are still connected with programs and things like that. That's like borderline almost what we're saying is breaking NDA. They're still technically connected. They still have clearances. They still work within the government. However, they feel the need as a human being to step out and at least say that these things are here.
I would like to make a comment. I appreciate that. A lot of people really go after Ross Coulthart for not releasing more information that he knows. And the issue is that if you're a journalist, if you give out information that you've been told not to give out by your sources, you will lose your sources. You will basically cut yourself off at the neck as far as being able to find out any more information. The other thing is with NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, the problem is that they are legally and morally required to protect those. Because if you don't, you will either be thrown in jail or you'll be killed. And finally, I'm pretty old. I used to work for the NSA like over 50 years ago. And I will still not divulge anything that I knew when I worked at the NSA, because that's the way it works. And we cannot expect people to violate their oaths to the NDA or whatever it is to come forward and just to appease us. It just doesn't work that way. And that's my opinion about it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going to go where I'm about to go. You know, I generally try not to get excited about people dying, but I think deathbed confessionals are going to be the best source of information for us for a while, especially after people see how David Grush and a handful of others have been treated through these.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's like that one journalist who came out and just did that hit piece on Grush.
Yes.
About his mental state and everything.
That was pretty awful.
Yeah, that's not right. So I think the deathbed confessionals are going to be the best source of information for us, honestly, and it's going to be us piecing it together.
You nailed it. That's bingo. You nailed it.
Yeah.
So it's tough though, because if the aliens landed on the White House lawn tomorrow, if it was clear they were in the sky all over the globe like on Independence Day, does the government still stay intact? Do the powers that be stay intact post that event? And see, that's the thing, because if the world immediately changes in a moment like that, which it's very possible that it could, then if the governments are no longer relevant, then NDAs are no longer relevant.
Rob, excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Step
they flew over the White House and Capitol in 1952, the year I was born, and it didn't disrupt anything.
Well, it was, that's the beginning of the secrecy. You know what I mean? So in a moment like now, where they didn't just fly over the White House lawn, but they're like on Independence Day, they're fixed in the sky over major cities across the world. They're just there, and they're there every day. So in a moment like that, not something that was reported and we know it's true, but I'm talking about an event that everyone comes outside, everyone in the world is able to walk outside and see a ship over their major city, which is a possibility that it would turn out that way. In a moment like that, I have to think that things change pretty drastically in a moment like that. And it's just to say, it ends up being up to us. And that's why the disclosure comes through us. If we agree to go along with what the society is currently, the whole idea is that post disclosure, we break down this society, because it doesn't work. The society we're in, the powers that be, are driving us to potential human extinction if they pull the trigger on these nukes. Now, hopefully the ETs intervene, but if for some reason they don't intervene, then it's the end of humanity. So we can't keep things the way they are. We just can't. So we have to make alterations to it, but then you have to wonder, to what extent will those alterations be made? Will we still keep government, but we kind of, as people tweak the way that the government runs things to where it's not about war and it's about focusing on citizens? I just did a show about that. That would be the perfect outcome. That would be hopefully what would happen, because I think there is a place for government on the other side of disclosure if they're doing the right things on behalf of us. But I think we have a history showing that they do not do the best things that are, they subjected us to tests, nuclear tests. They've subjected us to the syphilis trials, all those things that they've done to the citizens. You can't be okay with that same structure going, and we're supposed to be ascending as conscious beings. We that can't be a thing. So there has to be a discussion had, and it's really a hard one because we're comfortable in America or in a westernized country where we think we're protected and safe. But the reality is that we're still all slaves to the system, and that they don't have the benefits. So if we all sit down at the table and we have a chance to say, okay, we get to decide how this changes or which direction, the globe goes in, then I think we cut out war, we cut out a lot of the things that the government. So it's gonna be, I feel like it should be different, because if we miss the opportunity to kind of alter the powers that be, there's only three things that could do that, which would be a nuclear war, a catastrophic disclosure situation, or an asteroid impact. Those are the only things that can change the path of the powers that be. There's nothing else that we have as the people that can change that. So you would think we would take advantage of that situation to be able to kind of usher in a new idea of a new world that we want to live in. And I'm just speaking from that angle. When I say the NDAs may not matter on the other side of disclosure, because things could be drastic and likely will be drastically different if we have something like that, and they should be drastically different. I think that's more of what I'm getting to.
Let me jump in real quick to address something that old Dave said. 1952 came up. The July 1952 flights for like a week, 10 days, where there were multiple UFOs.
2 weeks. It was like 2 weeks.
Yeah. Just constantly. They were like every night almost. They were flying over in multiples. They were flying over the White House, all over Washington, D.C. Some of them lasted a while. Okay. It wasn't just a quick zip. In 1952, that society is very different than what we have 70 years later. That society, you could get away with that. Okay. A lot of folks were we just come out of the war. That was still very fresh in our minds. And so the government and the military were in very high regard. Okay. What we didn't know at the time was Project Mockingbird was also in effect, where the government was in thousands of news outlets, radio, TV, newspapers, all across this nation. And they were steering the narrative, shall we say. Okay. They were killing stories. So that 52 flights 1952 flights over the White House, I mean, that got killed off. I don't think you can get away with that today. And that 3-minute diatribe that Rob G just laid out on us is exactly why, because people feel like he just enunciated. So I think it's a very different environment that we're in now. I mean, if they did that again this July instead of July of 52, I think it would be just I mean, that's our catastrophic disclosure right there. And that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. You want to add to that, Aloha Dave?
Yeah. I'm thinking that it's not going to matter if it's Biden or Trump or if Putin stays in power, etc. If something like that happened, how you described it, where there's an actual super event where there's ships over all major cities, that's going to really get people's attention really quick, and they're going to forget about their conservative or progressive politics or where they are and all that crap. It's just they're going to say, "Oh, we have to deal with this. There's something going on."
I feel like that's when, if anything, I think maybe what the government does in the situation, because they're going to want to, and that's why there's a such thing right now as controlled disclosure versus catastrophic, because with the controlled disclosure approach, the government wants to make sure that they keep what they have intact on the opposite side of disclosure, which shows that they believe that if it didn't go the control route, that they would lose control, which is why there's even a such thing as catastrophic versus controlled disclosure. They just want to make sure that however long it takes for them to release the information, they just want to make sure that they still have the power on the other side of that. Is that good? Is that bad? Technically, if you look at where we're going, like I was stating a moment ago, then it's a bad thing, because they'll just use the new technology for weapons, and we'll just be making our deadly weapons even more deadlier. We'll be making our nukes able to get there in seconds instead of minutes, and it's just, it's definitely, we would hope, I would hope for sure that we come out on the other side of this, and we just don't know. We're just talking through this, but I would just hope that, that I just don't see it though. I don't see the government being able to, in their current form, be able to exist in a new world. They're the way of thinking and the way that they treat the citizens. We currently know that we currently believe that we can't stand for the way they're doing us now, right? So, and we hope for a way to make a change, which is why we have politics and laws, and we vote on things to try to change. But we realize that doesn't actually work. They say go out and vote. We know that voting doesn't really work, because at the end of the day, it's their narrative that gets pushed. The same way with the disclosure stuff that we tried to push through the Congress. They drew the line in the sand and said, we're on this side, you guys are on that side. If a catastrophic event were to hit today, the government goes underground, continuity of government. They leave us outside to fend for ourselves. So with that sort of opposite end of the spectrum, and it's just I would hope everyone would want something different going forward, and it's our moment to try to make that happen. So a lot of things they push and they love, we don't agree with, you know what I mean? And so that even goes back to if they are interfacing with these ETs, then likely they're not agreeing or making deals on things that are in our best interest, right? So kind of full circle goes back to that, really.
I think there's certainly a place for the government. There has to be, because someone has to make the trains run on time. Um, I think you hit it on the head, though, in that the government, as it stands now, the current form of government, is going to have to adapt. And I think some of it will be them looking at what the aliens can do and just throwing their hands up and says, well, what do we do now? We can't deal with that. And I think that's part of why they are so resistant to disclosure. Giving up, like I said earlier, giving up that supposed omnipotence that they believe they have now. They just have so much power. They think they can do anything they want. The aliens are going to put them in their place, though, and they know that. So they're resistant. But yeah, still, there's the day-to-day business that has to happen. Whatever the country is, the USA, France, Thailand, wherever, there are people with needs that are going to have to be met. We're going to have to regulate the food and inspect the food. We're going to have to, just common things like that. There's got to be a place for government. There's got to be some sort of organization that works for the greater good of the society.
True. You would think the UN would be that for the globe, and that's the thing, because we're going to want to be the ones to lead the world when they talk about like a one world government, like the New World Order. And that's technically what the United States is going to want to do. But the thing is that they have chances right now to kind of show show their best, or put their best foot forward, by at least saying these things are here. Because at that point they could say these things are here, here's what we're thinking about to try to mediate the situation. And it's like, it's simple. It should be a simple thing for them to do if that's their intention on the other side of disclosure. But because they're not doing that and not giving us just the basic information, then it shows that there's something, that they may have other motives, right? As far as what they intend to do on the other side. But I do agree there should be some sort of, I want them to exist on the other side because, I my hope is that in those secret rooms, those contractors are not just trying to reverse engineer ET craft, but maybe they're developing like anti ET weapons in the event that something happens, or in order to defend the people on the other end. So I think we would need them for at least that, especially if we're dealing with the malevolent, because we can't fight them off as just humanity. We just don't have anything to do that. So it's, but it's hard to know what they're thinking. But you can only, usually you can, a good judge of the future is by looking at the past, right? And there just isn't a great track record showing that the government has ever been about the people. And it's just, the United States, for example, has only been here less than 300 years, but they've been holding the biggest secret, humanity affecting secret for 1/3 of that time. And then 100 years prior to that, they were enslaving their citizens and doing also. It's never been actually a great situation when it comes to the relationship between government and the citizens. So it's like, based on the past, what would make you think that things would change in the future? I just don't see anything there that would lay that out or would show us that they would make that turn post disclosure. So you just kind of have to look at that, because then, just like I was saying on that other show, there's a fine line between a democracy and a dictatorship. This democracy that we enjoy could immediately turn into a dictatorship if the people get together. We know, you can look at the UFO community and see them attacking us, and have been attacking the UFO community, which the UFO community is just about unity, and kind of allowing, they don't want that. They're doing everything to go against it. So it's like, if they're doing all these things that show that they really don't have us in their best interest, what makes you think if catastrophic disclosure happens tomorrow that they all of a sudden change their tune and now are about the people? So maybe, I've always talked about a reset of the government, like, hey, let's get rid of the guys in there now and kind of re-elect everyone, and you know purpose the positions to people who are pro humanity, or people. Then I could see a government existing on the other side, but it would have to be that, because the lifelong politicians that control the government now, and the ones in the back rooms, they have shown you who they are, and I just don't see those people changing. So we would have to find a way, if we had government, to kind of get rid of those guys and replace them with people who will do the right thing on behalf of humanity. That would be a way to take the government into that new world. But where do you see
Rob,
signs of that happening?
Rob, you scare me with the UN though, because it's been demonstrated time after time that the further you get the government pulled back from the people, the worse it gets for the people. That one world government idea just scares the heck out of me. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
trying to be
No, yeah,
PG
you're
here,
right.
but so I mean, ideally speaking, I think that it's somewhere between the state level and the federal level, depending upon the service that's being rendered. Um, like, well, I mentioned like examining the food. The FDA makes sense for that, the national level. But I mean, there are things that a more local government would be better suited for, and I think that's the case, probably globally. I would love to see some of these harsh dictatorships fall, um, but yeah, the one world government thing just scares the hell out of me because
Yeah, it's total control over the populace
yeah,
by one group. Yeah, I mean that's, but you're making that decision based off of what you know of government now. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
it's
that's
true.
what's skewing
That's a
the
good
whole
point.
outlook. So
But the
that,
thing is, we think that Washington and the Beltway are out of touch with the common folk now. Now you take that, you put it in The Hague, and that's going to be even more so out of touch with the majority of the people. So
yeah.
that's
It could
it
go.
seems like human nature where that hasn't it hasn't done well for the majority of folks.
Yeah, yeah. Power. What the Magnum 10? What did you say here? Power corrupts, and
Hmm.
absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Amen.
yeah, yeah. They took the power from us. The power was supposed to be with the
Yeah.
people. They took it from us. So there.
Yeah. But
Why would they ever give it back?
if we find something that we don't like, I can go to Lansing, my capital, which is an hour and 10 minutes away, and I can hold signs and march around the Capitol. If I find something I don't like in Washington, I can drive 8 hours and march there.
Hmm.
I'm not driving to The Hague or wherever they decide to put this. And that's even if they tell us where they're going to put it. It may be in some underground bunker.
And this is why, if you look at like First Amendment auditors, right? Just auditors, this is to use as an example, right? We have rights, right? And constitutional rights, and we don't always exercise them. And it's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it sort of situation. So you have a situation where even though we have the rights as citizens, we don't have the power to make the decisions. We have to go to a voting booth to hopefully get the way, our vision of whatever the issue is, to be changed in favor of our hopefully positive ideals. But it doesn't always work out that way, and it usually doesn't. Within your lifetime, none of the things that you think should pass would may not ever get passed. So that means you live your life under someone else's ideals and rules, and that's just not okay, right? Because our voices should be heard as well. And it's just shown that even in a democracy like the United States, supposed to be the best country in the world, that there's a lot of things that just go against the everyday person. And it's like it's scary because, just like I think T-Bone was saying, please don't mention reset. And I understand why you would say that, because that's a scary proposition, right? Because but then that goes back to, well, then what happened to those civilizations that reached a certain point? You know what I mean? Did they self
Yeah.
implode because they allowed the power structure to stay in place? And it's kind of like, we have a chance to either do something different, or maybe end up the same as those other civilizations. And that's why it's so important for us to have these conversations in this moment, because we either have a chance to allow things to continue as they are, or we have a chance to get together as humanity and kind of restructure. So not really do away, just kind of restructure, sit at a table where our ideas will actually be implemented. Because currently in the structure that we have, voting doesn't always work, and marching in front of Capitol has been the best thing that we've ever done to try to move the needle. But if we don't do something like that, then our voices are never heard. So it's like,
Um,
it's comfortability. I think it's people complacency and comfortability, just people. And that's kind of the problem with people who live in that societal bubble, is that they're so comfortable within that they don't care or see the bigger picture, because they're comfortable. Even though someone in a third world country isn't eating, it doesn't have electricity, but you're comfortable in your bubble, so you're okay
mhm.
with the way the world is right now on a day-to-day basis. Although there's a whole half of the populace of the globe that want things to change, and want things to change now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I guess maybe a perspective coming from someone on that side of the spectrum, they would probably agree with, hey, things need to change in this post-disclosure world. You know what I mean?
Rob, something you said illustrates what I was trying to say better than I was doing, frankly. Where you live in California, a lot of folks have been leaving California to go to Texas. And this is what I was trying to say. Some things are better at the state level, and some things are better at the federal level. If the
Mhm.
states are doing things differently, you were saying that was, maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but you seem to be indicating that that's not right. But on my end, that's options, because if I want to, if Michigan is making me mad, I've got 49 options,
Mm-hmm.
right? That are
Right.
going to give me the same, roughly the same experience, life experience, right? The way of life. And yet it's relatively easy. Then there's Aloha Dave, who's bounced around states, and then he went to Costa Rica for a while, and now he's in Mexico. I mean, again, if everybody answers to the UN wherever they are, I mean, we're all going to have that same experience, period. So really what it does is it takes choices away from us.
See, when I say UN, I don't mean UN in its current state. I
Mhm.
mean the UN as as it should be ideally. It should be the United
Yeah.
Nations should be uh a entity that looks out for the interests of all countries in one setting, right, with representatives from each country, so not just necessarily one structure that controls the world, but just people who are lobbying for hopefully something positive, and that's where it goes down to, I guess, the people that you put in place that are either going to be people who are doing things selfishly or doing things for the benefit of others. Is one of the two. And unfortunately, when it comes down to human beings, you just never really know. But that's where this shift.
Yeah.
That's what the importance of the shift, and why we need to sit down as humanity and try to restructure this. Because if it, based on what we know about governments now, judges, kind of makes it to where we look at the UN, if they were to be the go-to power structure, that yeah, they could technically just be a dictatorship and hold us all down globally, or they could be pro humanity and they could do good for the world. So either way, there's going to have to be something that we put in place. Now, whether we tear down what we have to build back up, or we hopefully just restructure the thing that's already there. But in order for us to step out there into the cosmos, something like that is going to have to happen. They're not going to let us out there in this current state. They're not going to let us out there with the way the governments are currently structured. So not even just on our side, but on the extraterrestrial side, I'm sure they don't agree with what the governments are doing if they have morals. So it's kind of like we both need them to change the way that they're running this. So it's scary, and a lot of people who lean on government, that's my camera, people who lean on government feel, feel like can't imagine a world without that, because yeah, maybe we go back a couple steps and maybe we
Yeah.
regress as far as where we're at, sociologically, but at the same time we have to change something, you know what I mean? And it's unimaginable, right, that we're at this point and that we would have to do something like that. But I mean, you have to look at the long-term outcome. What do you want your grandkids or great grandkids to adopt a world with the government as is because we don't agree with what they're doing, or would you like them to have the altered version if we have the choice to do that?
Yes, you're right.
I'm just saying, I'm just talking through it only because it's sad. It's because we built ourselves up so high and we're so advanced. And it's like if everything was good within our governments, this would be perfect. It would be the perfect moment for us to interface with these ETs because everything would be on the up and up, and we would be all united as just humanity, whether you're in government or not. But it's just like, man, what they call is Stockholm syndrome, right? Where you just get comfortable with your captors and you develop compassion for your captors. And that's exactly what it is here in the United States. It's a false sense of security. You see, in the pandemic, things collapsed immediately. In China, they made everybody stay indoors. In America, they almost kind of did that here too. Almost. That's why I say it's a fine line between what we enjoy as a democracy and a dictatorship. They'll enact martial law. I think in a lot of cases, we just haven't hit those moments where they need to regain control of the populace. But I think they would pull that trigger pretty quick.
We're getting into some weird territory here because we can start getting into FEMA camps if you want, because those scare the hell out of me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, look at
Yeah.
it. Look at it, and it's talk. That's why we just talk about it, because why not? Why not flesh it all out? Why not talk about all angles? Because one of these things will end up being true. We just don't know which one. But I think it's just like Drew said earlier, Drew Banky, be prepared. Why not talk it through and just, be prepared? We've had all the conversations that we could have. We've looked at all the possible outcomes. And then so we're kind of prepared as best as we can be, because the government isn't allowing us to do that. They don't want us to have these conversations. They don't want us to think these things through. They want to be the thinkers on our behalf, as the conversation is based around that. They're interfacing with ETs on our behalf. They don't want us to have the voice to talk to them. And it's like control, right? So yeah, this could go a lot of places.
Yeah, what in your mind triggers such an event where there's martial law? At least in this country. I mean, who knows what? I can't address other countries. I mean,
something like we'll just use asteroid impact. Asteroid impact, I think martial law, because that would be something where the people would potentially start looting, rioting, or whatever the case. Ontological shock, right? Which is the words that we're using now for disclosure. So I just think that it's really, one of those situations where the pandemic, right? People thought we were so comfortable and cozy, and then we went without toilet paper for a few days, and the whole world almost disintegrated. So I think in those situations, it doesn't take much, and our bubble is more fragile than we really realize, and it takes things to happen for us to actually realize. And that's why I said I used to look at doomsday preppers as crazy, like what? Financial collapse, all these different scenarios that they can say that they're prepping for. And I'm like, that's far off. That's way off. It would never happen. But then we have something like a pandemic and things disintegrate in a matter of a couple days. And this turns into almost a third world country. People are fighting in stores over supplies, and the supply chain is broken. And now, all of a sudden things are falling apart fast. You know what I mean? So I don't think it takes much, but I think for sure asteroid impact would be one thing. And it doesn't even have to be here. It could be just somewhere in the world. But I think it would shake things up enough in the world that you may see some of that happen.
I think EMP is more likely.
That too.
But yeah, same sort of thing. Yeah.
That too.
And I do think that would be deliberate. But
yeah. The Chinese are supposedly tapped into our grid and our water and all that. Yeah. So something like that gets triggered, and they may not position it as martial law. Like it's more like we're protecting you, almost like the whole Stephen Greer thing, which I don't agree with, but the whole false flag invasion, like something like that kicks off, then that's another situation, right? It's making us think that they're protecting, but they're actually suppressing, actually, is what they're doing, right? Yeah. And they're just making sure that the power is maintained.
Yeah, and I've got to wonder, we spend so much money on so many different things. Why can't we take, a 2 to 5 year project and harden that grid and, make it damn near impenetrable to an EMP attack? Supposedly we have the technology to do it, and it just doesn't happen. And I have to wonder, the conspiracy part starts working. It's like, okay, why? Why are they not fixing this glaring problem when they know they can?
There you go.
So
Why would they not give us free energy when they potentially have harnessed it already and they have it and they're potentially using it for some other purpose? Why wouldn't they allow that to benefit the people? Why not? It's a lot of questions like that, and it's like
yeah,
then you start to have to ask yourself at the end of all that, are they really have our best interests at heart? And I think the answer is going to usually be no. There's too many examples. We can go down a long list. Like I said, the atrocities that they and are probably still doing. Right? They subjected the soldiers to the nuclear test in the 40s. Who knows what they're doing to them today? They definitely are. Area 51, they were burning all those materials over there and had the soldiers were obviously affected by the smoke inhalation, and it's just something they don't care about. They kind of just look at you as a name or a number and kind of say someone else will fill your place. And that's the way society is set up. You go through working for 40 years, and then they kind of spit you out the system and put somebody else in your seat. Like, what are you really to them? What is your value to them? What is your value to you? Your value to you is full and complete. The value to them is not so much. You know what I mean? And that's where it gets real sticky, because you would hope, that everyone wants to come to America for the land of promise and the land of the free and all that stuff. But we could point to a lot of things that are almost dictatory that they do and they've done to us. And I don't like talking about that, because it makes you seem like you're anti-government, but you're really not. You're just pro-humanity. You know what I mean? And it's like anything that goes against the positive progression of humanity is something we probably don't need. So whatever falls in that category, you can write a list down of whatever things don't go for humanity, and whatever things fall on that list are probably things we need to get rid of or we need to change. And unfortunately, at this moment, the government falls in that. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
you're right. I agree. The and it's important to distinguish. I say this occasionally. I remember putting it in the chat not too long ago. It's important to make the distinction between country and government. They are not the same. The country is the guy down the street from you. It's your neighbor who picks up your mail while you're gone on vacation or something, right? It's the person in line behind you at Starbucks or in front of you at Starbucks that pays for your coffee. I mean, those people, those are your neighbors, that's the country. The government are the people who want to control them, who want to make the rules that dictate how they live. So that's the difference, and it's important not to confuse that.
It's
So
very true. And let me say this,
I
it's weird.
sure.
Think about the military.
Hmm.
They're right in the middle, right? Because
Yeah.
they go to war for the country and for the citizens at the same time. Like, what kind of you got to think about, like the dilemma that they're in when it comes to choosing a side, because it's all for country. Technically, we're
Yeah.
country, but it's like, what side do they side with in an event that something happens? And I would hope, and I feel like they side with humanity, because I think that's who they go to war for. They go to war for us and not necessarily the government.
Well, have you ever heard of the Oath Keepers?
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's what they're supposed to be about. They're supposed to say, hey, look, the governments get corrupt over time. We stand for this. We will support this Constitution, whether or not the government does. That's what they're supposed to be about.
Yeah, an extreme, and that's not a great example, right? Because obviously, we seen, that's where it gets, and that's the whole problem, is that because it gets into that gray area, conversations like we're having could be considered anti-government. That's why I make sure to say that my view is not anti-government. I'm really not. I really want and hope to have a government structure on the other side. I really want that. but the government just has to be willing to change their perspective and kind of do for the people. That's all we're asking. I want them to exist. And that's why I hope that they listen to conversations like this, because the people in the government that could make the those sort of changes or kind of shift it in that direction. I'm just hoping that they do so. You know what I mean? Because unfortunately, it ends up in that moment where decisions have to be made. We have to decide if this is what we want to do or not. And it's like, it's a tough spot to be in, but we're living through it. And it's like our duty almost to make sure that we go, when we choose right or left in this moment we're in, that we choose the right direction that benefits our grandchildren and all the people down the line who will inherit this planet after us.
I'm sorry, it's kind of ironic for me to hear you talking about, yeah, I hope the government will listen to us. Meanwhile, you still have up on the screen, power corrupts, absolute.
Yeah,
Power corrupts, absolutely.
And I mean, because that's the thing, and that's why, because we could be quickly put in that bucket where they're like, oh, you're anti-government, and then that's when they orchestrate an attack on what it is that you're doing. They want to shut it down. But I just want to make sure that it's clear that that's not the conversation that we're having. It's not, hey, get rid of the government. The government is horrible, it's bad. I feel the government is made up of humans, and I think human compassion can overcome and connect with the rest of humanity and kind of shift it. And that's what I want, and that's what I hope that happens.
Yeah, and it's important to put in perspective that it's all relative too. Depends on the government. George Washington was anti-government, you could say.
Yeah. I mean, we like to what they say, when you point one finger out, you have four fingers pointed back at you, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing. Like when we point around the world and say, oh, this country's bad, this country's bad, this country's bad. But then where's the self-reflection when we look at what we could correct as us? And I think that just not a lot of that happens, because you have a lot of interest, lobbyists and things like that kind of intervene and kind of get in the way of potentially someone actually doing right for the people. And it's sickening and sad. But I just hope there's a way that and that's a conversation we need to have. How can we change that? You know what I mean? How can we change that? That way they can exist.
Yeah, and that brings us back to the ETs, because once they show up, as I think they inevitably will, for whatever reason, I think that's going to cause a lot of folks to reevaluate just a lot of things. Like in SOR, where they have that quote from Reagan in September of 1987 at the UN. Once the ETs show up, all of a sudden, a lot of these silly differences that we all have, they're going to look a lot less important.
Exactly.
So I think that's a major opportunity for us to right the ship, shall we say?
Yeah, it's heavy. It's a daunting task. It's almost like moving a mountain. It's like just the logistics to do something like that. It would be huge and unimaginable. But it's like that's kind of what we're faced with, and it's that's kind of what keeps me up at night, because I think through it and I think of all the scenarios. I just look at all this, and I think that's the best way to do it, is just look at all the scenarios and then kind of pick which is the best path forward. And maybe we've covered that tonight, some of those things, or maybe we haven't. Maybe I'm sure there's still more discussion that we have to have on that. We haven't figured it out. We don't know exactly what we're going to do. We're kind of just spitballing on ways things, just parallel dimensions, right? So this dimension, things stayed the same. This next dimension, we made the shift and we did this other dimension. So we're thinking about like all those dimensions and possible outcomes at once. And it's like that's why one person will probably go crazy thinking about it, but that's why it's good to be able to bounce it off other people like we're doing tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maggie M10, she's impressed with you guys tackling this. It's a huge topic. Just like I said, Maggie, we cover the topics that keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So once this show is over, like we're about to shut it down in a second, this is still going to be on your mind, right? And this is something, and that's good because then you get to have the conversation outside of just here and with your peers and family members. And it's actually something that hopefully, you know, like Drew Bankey wanting to get on a larger platform to speak to a broader audience. This is sort of the same thing where this is a conversation that we should be having with as many people as possible. And I think we'll get there. But yeah, do you have anything to add to that as we get ready to wrap this up, Para?
Rob, I want to ask about something else.
Yeah, definitely.
What's in that cupboard, Rob? Come on now. You know
No,
that I was going to get on here and ask about this.
I'll tell you. I
Okay.
did check. I have video of it too. I'll have to end up showing you, but it's nothing
Okay.
in there. It's sugar and it was a couple little dishes. There was nothing in there that was compelling because I found that out because maybe a week ago, this was after the video I showed, we had another orb in there that triggered the camera. This time I went in there. So my girl went the first time. This time I went in there and I'm filming. I have the phone and I'm filming my phone with another phone as I go in there so you can see the orb is still there and you can see me walk in there and it's the orb is sitting right there. Kind of flies around. It flew down. I stood over by the sink. It kind of flew down where I was by the sink. Went ahead and checked
So
the cupboard.
it was reacting to you.
It, you know, it's flying towards me, maybe, but being that you said that, I'm glad you said that because I when this all happened, I researched other orb situations that are similar, and a guy caught an orb in his garage, and he had a ring camera in his garage. You can speak through the ring camera, so he actually was speaking through the ring camera, and he was like, "Hey, XYZ." And every time he said something, the little orb kind of seemed to shake a little bit as it moved. So it was doing the smooth movements and doing this and that. And then when he would speak, it kind of like shook a little bit as it was moving. And I was like, wow, that's weird. And then when he said something again, it kind of did that too. So my thing is I'm gonna try that next time if it even comes back. I'm gonna try to talk through the speaker and see if I can get that same sort of reaction, because if it does, then it reacts to sound, which would be a big thing to know. You know what I mean? So I'm fleshing it out live in front of you. But yeah, nothing was in the cupboard, Paramore. Definitely wanted to tell you that. It's nothing in there.
Maybe
No
it's a
secret.
diabetic orb and it wanted that sugar.
Exactly. No ancient book or, you know, amulet or jewel in there. Nothing strange like that. But yeah, you know, the story continues. But like I said, when I had the before now with these recent things, it had been a year since anything had happened. So technically, this could be the last experience I had with it. I may never have another one, or I may have something next week. So I guess stay tuned to find out. I don't know.
You've shown us the Shadow Man picture a few times, and that's down towards the end of the hallway. Where is this room where the orbs are in relation to that Shadow Man?
Opposite side of the house.
That's what I
Yes.
thought.
So
Okay.
the shadow person is technically at the front door, like on the threshold inside of the front door, which is weird. It's also right next to where the shadow person is where my lady has her desk set up. So that's where she was sitting when the knocking was heard. So right next to where the shadow person picture was taken. The footsteps, though, I was hearing them in the studio here, which is probably next to where the shadow person was. But my daughter, who was the only other person who had been hearing footsteps on the roof, her room is technically, her wall is connected to that side house. Does it mean anything? I don't know. And the other thing is that I can't say for sure if the orb is related to the other things that were happening here, or if it's something that was brought back from Virginia City. Because Science Bob and Lala, the moment they got
Yeah.
home, they said
They
that
had a
they,
hitchhiker, yeah.
yeah. So I don't know if I had one, but Melinda Leslie, supposedly when we were there, she did some sort of speech or something that was supposed to not allow the thing to carry with you, but I don't know if it worked or not. So I can't say if I brought it back or if it's related to something else, but I'm fleshing it out, man, right in front of you.
Rob, I'm glad you brought up your lady. I want you to thank her for me because she gave me a big laugh. When I first saw that video, you play it, she was the best part. When she yells out, Robert, I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, ooh, Rob is in trouble.
Look,
Ooh.
that's funny. I hope she might watch this. That's funny, Paramore, really, because here's the thing, right? She always gets on me for not having pet names, right? Because I call her
Uh-huh.
Her name is Brittany. I call her Brittany, and then she calls me Robert. So there is like no real nicknames or pet names that we use. It's a conversation that we've had before. So that's totally funny you brought that up.
Well, I'm just glad she didn't use your middle name too, because then you would be in trouble.
Exactly. But hey, I got it on film, right? So
Mhm.
if anything repercussions were to happen, at least I have proof that I was the one being chastised or assaulted, right? So
Mhm. Well, I'll also take a second and thank you for sharing so much of your life and those your paranormal life, I should say, right?
yeah, that's
Sharing
fine.
that experience with the 47 UFOs and the Shadow Man and the
You know,
orbs. So,
no problem, Paramore. And actually, I was you saying that I was in a meeting with some other experiencers actually earlier today, and it really hit me. And then also here at this channel, because the whole idea of this show really is to have people come in from the audience and come talk about their experiences. And it's just I'm finding out a lot that a lot of people just are, for whatever reason, don't want to share, or just feel that it's so personal that they want to keep it to themselves for whatever reason. and
mhm.
and but I end up being the opposite of that. So I'm just like an open book. So if anything happens, it's out there. I'm like experiencing it with everyone. But there is an element of there's people that just for some reason don't want to share that, and I'm trying to figure that out. Have you thought about that? Do you have an idea of why that is so?
Why they wouldn't want to share their paranormal experiences?
Yeah, like overall, would be the reason why? Would you, in your opinion?
In my opinion, there are a lot of folks in this chat room that should have been up here tonight because they have stuff to talk about, and yet they're telling me to get in here with you. And I'm like, guys, I don't have anything. They're like, just doesn't
Mm,
matter. Get in there. Get in there. So I think maybe they're just I don't- the whole fear of public speaking thing.
okay, okay.
I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. I mean, and then you add that paranormal element where a lot of folks might still be concerned about being mocked or whatever,
The
or
stigma.
being thought of as weird. Yeah, the stigma, exactly. Thank you. That's the
Yeah,
word I was searching for. So you couple those two things together, and I think you have a challenge. But I
yeah.
think you are so, and I'm saying this to the crowd listening right now. Rob is so easy to talk to. I don't even know how long I've been in here. It just flies by.
Awesome,
So
man.
why
Appreciate
I
it.
feel bad.
Same.
Aloha Dave's
Oh,
dropped
he
off
said
on us.
he put a message. It was like he's just sitting back enjoying our conversation, our back and forth. So, aloha, Dave. He did say that. So, yeah, Paramar. He put in a message. Paramar, I'm glad you joined the conversation. It was really interesting. So he was sitting back reveling in the back and forth, and I enjoyed it too. I always do. Last time we talked, and when you're in the chat is always I feel like intellect behind the things you're saying. And that's why, even though I know you've said before that you haven't had an experience, I know you at least have a good opinion or perspective on what you've learned and what you've seen as far as through other people, vicariously through other people's stories. So
I don't know how
I do
good it
appreciate.
is, but thank you, sir.
No, you're good. You're good. All right, I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Yes, sir.
All right. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you.
Aloha, Dave. If you're listening, take care. And I'm gonna wrap it up.
I'm listening. It was fun.
All right. Well, we're gonna do it again. Aloha, Dave. Once again, appreciate your support and everything that you do as well. And we will talk again soon. So adios, amigo.
Adios. Nos vemos.
Hasta mañana. All right. All right, guys. So you know what time it is. Yeah, it's time to kick up the music, the goodbye music. Because once again, I think we had another conversation to move the needle. That's why we do this. That's what the platform is for. That's what the late night calling is for. That's what my experience with the phenomena is for. So once again, let me bring that up because I would love to have stories. I would love to have anyone who is willing to talk about their experience come in and do so with the new show. I think that it would be a resource for a lot of people who, just like I talked about, are holding in stories and maybe don't feel comfortable because of, like Pierre Mark said, the stigma, um, the risk of ridicule. You know what I mean? But I think once you realize that, it's not just happening to you, it's happening to probably billions of other people. We think about 8 billion people on this planet. It's probably, we got to say at least 1 billion, 2 billion people that have experienced something. And if you think about it like that, that's a huge number of experiencers and a lot higher than this is the statistics show, right? So with that being said, this is why we do this. Let me go ahead and bring up the reason why we do this, because I want this to be really clear that we do this for the positive progression of humanity. So having the conversations that move the needle, that move humanity on a positive path, however we have to get there, whatever we have to do to get there, it is our job in this moment to kind of set the path, or at least, lay the groundwork for this to happen. So this happens through these conversations. So once again, I really do appreciate you guys coming on in. I'm going to go ahead and get to as many names as I can in the chat because I appreciate everybody for coming. Jessica S., Lex Diaz, Philip Blair, T-Bone, West H., Christine, Puck L for sure. Obviously, Paramore and Aloha Dave. Jim, who was in here earlier, appreciate you. David Divine Broadcast, I seen you came earlier. Thank you. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming in. Thanks for your support. Let me keep going back. Let's go. Maggie M10, I better say that, right? Maggie M10, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you always coming in and supporting us here. People out there, if you haven't subscribed, it would be awesome if you hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 500 now. We've hit 4, and I appreciate you guys for that. So, Mark, man, appreciate you coming in. Deb from Sacramento. This is where we have those real conversations, right? Gets heavy, gets deep, sometimes controversial, right? But this is what we have to do. This has to happen. So with that being said, man, I want to thank everybody for coming into the Social Dig. Christine says, hit the likes and thumbs up. I agree. You guys have a great rest of your night. I will see you on the after hours tomorrow. Everybody take care.